Hey there, Chadi Bazzi here, and welcome to another episode of the Top Listing Agent Show. Today we have a special guest, and the special guest is Dan. And Dan, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name because I probably, butcher it. How do you pronounce your last name?
Lesniak.
Lesniak. Okay, just the way it's spelled. So we got Dan Lesniak from HyperFast Agent. And what we're going to do today is we're going to dive into a deep conversation that revolves around marketing and lead generation, and specifically what it takes for any real estate agent in any economy in any part of the country to do more business than they are doing right now. So with that said, Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be on here today. I'm digging your artwork too. It's pretty cool.
I mean, everybody's always like, is that you in the picture? That's the lion in me in the picture. For that. So Dan, why don't you go ahead? I mean, I'm confident that some people are familiar with your name that are, active listeners to the show. And why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself and tell our audience just how awesome you are.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm excited to be on here today. I've been in real estate as an agent professional since 2011. That's when I first got my license. So I've been doing it for a little over a decade now. I started off with a very, very focused niche strategy. And, they say the niches or the riches are in the niches.
Yeah.
And that certainly was the case for me. I sold about 22.5 million in my first year.
Wow.
And since then, I've gone on to help build a team with my wife now to, we'll probably do 800 to 900 million in sales volume this year.
Wow.
And it's allowed me, that kind of scale has allowed, me and Carrie to focus on other businesses as well. So we've got the HyperFast Agent podcast, which you were on, and our coaching program. And it's also given me the chance to build a big development team. So we're gonna do about 200 units in the next 8 to 12 months. Condo developments that we're doing in the DC area. And it all started though with having a very specific niche strategy, and it's been an amazing 10 years.
I love it. Well, I think you've accomplished a lot more in 10 years than some people do in 100 years in this industry. For you to do 22.5 million in your first 12 months and be able to do $800 to $900 million worth of volume this year with your team, do about 200 units with your developments. I mean, I wanted to reiterate that one more time to our listeners. And the reason for that is because if anybody is moving at this level, at this speed, you better pay attention. Because now, having identified that Dan has done so much, he's got a lot of nuggets that I want to extract for you guys from the beginning of the journey all the way up to where he's at right now. And maybe you don't want to do 900 million in volume a year. Maybe you just want to increase by 5 million or 10 million. We're going to show you how to do that today. Now, you mentioned something that I think it's the first time that anybody's ever mentioned it on the show, Dan, and that is the riches are in the niches. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I see too many agents putting a little bit effort in this niche, and then a little bit effort in this niche, and a little bit effort in this niche, and nobody is like focused on just one thing. And not that that is wrong or anything like that. I think you should definitely diversify your business, but you should definitely be known for one thing. And I'm curious to find out, what was that niche for you?
Well, there's a lot of ways you can segment the market. You can do it, but I think one of the most common ways when people start is, people they know, right? They focus on just calling friends, family, SOI, geography, occupation, right? There's a lifestyle. There's a lot of ways to do it. For me, I focused on geographically. I focused on one condo building with 190 units. And I built a brand around that. It was, on the orange line in Northern Virginia that runs from Arlington into DC. And I focused on one condo building at one metro stop, and I got a significant market share there. And then I kind of spread outward, from to the next condo building and the townhouses over here. So it was really just where I enjoyed living at the time, and where I found value in being, and I resonated with that group of people, and that was it. I started with just 200 people in my farm, if you will.
And what you're saying is very important, Dan, because I think a lot of people, they try to go too wide too quickly. And what you've done is you said, okay, this is my starting point, and I'm going to go as deep as I possibly can. You captured the market share, you build a brand around that, and then you're like, okay, well, how do I scale that? How do I duplicate that into the next building, and then into the next building or the next community, et cetera? And then you started to go wide, and here we are 10 years later, doing, let's see, math, 40, 50, 50x what you did your first year, 10 years later. So, and I'm sure that, going along that journey, I mean, there were some bumps, there was obstacles, there was one market shift if it was 10 years. Hold on a second. If you got me in 2011, it was right after the recession started, et cetera. Very interesting time to begin. What were some of the pitfalls or struggles that you had to endure and go through in order for you to continue to pivot and scale your business?
I think as you scale, like you have to take yourself out of more and more things. So I think a lot of agents struggle with that. They're not comfortable. They feel like only they can do it a certain way. I think there's a lot of that in the industry. And I've noticed many of the people that were selling 10 to 30 million, kind of in that range when I started, they're still selling about 10 to 30 million, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think many of them, the only difference between me and them is that they haven't hired, and I think a lot of them are just they try it once and it didn't work out, and hiring, replacing yourself, building systems, it's not easy. You're not going to do it overnight. You gotta put in work that you're not going to reap the benefit from instantaneously. Like you have to, put out an ad. You have to interview people. You have to hire someone, train them, right? And then, after 3 or 4 months, if you do it right, and it might take 5 or 6 months if you screw up once, or twice, which is normal. Then you get the reward. So I think a lot of people struggle with either thinking that they can replace themselves, or just trusting the process, or investing time and money up front to know that it's setting them up for something better down the road.
Got it. So Dan, who is, as a coach now, 10 years later, as a coach, the people that you work with, they usually come to you at what level of production?
We try to focus on people that are already doing 15, 20 million, have a small team, or have already committed to hiring people, and then they want to learn how to scale and do more. So,
perfect. Now, the reason I asked that question is because I want to make sure that we speak to two different people on this podcast today. The people that are going to be attracted to your message and your methodology and want to work with you, and maybe they're not at that 15 million mark. We want to talk a little bit to that person, to how they can get to the $15 million a year mark, which you've done in your first 12 months. And then we want to talk to the people that are already at 15 million and they want to go to 20, 25, 30, 100 million, whatever that number is. Let's begin with the people that are not yet at $15 million a year in volume. What would be the 1, 2, or 3 things that you would tell that agent that they must begin to do if they're not already doing it in order for them to get there? What are the 2 or 3 things they need to focus on?
I think they need to focus on picking a marketing technique,
okay,
and picking a market, right? So I go through this process in my book called Segmentation, Targeting, and Positioning. It's in my book, The Hyperlocal Hyperfast Real Estate Agent, which pretty much covers everything I did my first year. And it's that was 10 years ago now, but it's still a fairly
applicable.
Fairly applicable blueprint. But you got to pick a market and some marketing techniques and really focus on it. So if you're gonna, if you're gonna get business with this group of 400, 500 people, whatever it is, like, you need to put attention on them every single day.
So basically what you're saying is, pick your market. So that way you're not all over the place, a little bit here, a little bit there. You're primary in one location. And as you did, get that location right and then expand. So some of us in our marketplaces, we don't have like condo buildings or this or that. So pick a subdivision, pick a little region of a city. What's a good number to start off with? Like 200, you started off with 190, 400, 500. What's a good number for me to select if that's the method that I'm going to follow? What would be a good starting point?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors I think that would affect how I'd answer, and I think it could be anywhere from 200 to 2,000. I think once you start to get over 2,000, that's as a newer agent without a track record, without as much marketing dollars, it starts to get diluted. I think once you're over 2,000. But I think it needs to probably at least be 200. Okay. It'll kind of depend on the turnover, right? So if if you don't have a lot of turnover in your market, 500 might not be enough. Maybe you need 1,000, right? So you got to study, how many people actually buy and sell a home, every year in this group of people. Like what's
and what percentage are we looking for? What kind of turnover are we looking for? Is there a specific number that you try to find and say, okay, well, because the turnover is like maybe 7%, and in here that's a good number, or 8%, 9%, 5%? What's a good number?
I think 10, like 8, 9, 10% is pretty healthy. That's a lot of turnover. I probably wouldn't want to go below 4 or 5. So I think the year, I'm trying to think how many turned over the year. It was about 200 units, and there were probably 40 sales in that building. So
that's about a 20% turnover.
So that was high, yeah.
A very high turnover. So basically what you're saying is the less turnover, the more homes. The more turnover, the less homes we can begin with. Okay.
Correct.
And this is again.
And one thing too, I'll just before I forget, the building I focused on was about 3.5 years old. So, and this is just kind of hint to other, if you've got an opportunity like this near you, a lot of people probably do with all the new construction going on. That's a pretty good time frame for a neighborhood, because people haven't had a lot of sales yet, right? If the neighborhood's about 3 to 5 years old, that means people are probably going to start thinking about moving more, and they probably don't have a dominant sales agent in that neighborhood yet, because once the builder sells out, that's staff. They're gone, and most of them, a lot of them don't focus on resales or even do them. The people that sell new home communities, and those that do, they're typically more concerned about the next project than keeping in touch with everyone who bought in there. So I think if you're in an area that had new construction 3 to 5 years ago, that might be a good place to start, because you might get more turnover and you don't have a dominant agent in that area.
So you already brought up like 2 major gold nuggets that a lot of people don't think about. Number one, what you just said right now is totally golden, because every single marketplace has a newer community somewhere, okay? And the newer community hasn't already been hit by one primary agent that's taken over that. So there's market share for every single person. And then, like you said, 3-4 years into it, that's when people start thinking about like, okay, I've outgrown this area, I've outgrown this home, it's time for me to sell this, that, etc. So that would be, if you're watching this video or listening to this podcast, I'd be taking a look at your marketplace and trying to identify that one neighborhood in your marketplace that's not being dominated by an agent. It's kind of newer and turnover is beginning there. Go there, put the stick in the ground with your name on it and saying, this is now my territory, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to capture as much market share as I possibly can. So that's number one. Number two, what you talked about is really identifying the market share and the right amount of homes, because a lot of people, what they do, Dan, is they say, well, I live in this neighborhood, or I like this neighborhood. Just because you like the neighborhood, or just because you live in a neighborhood, it doesn't mean there's anything going on in the neighborhood. So you got to scientifically look at, what pond you want to go fish in, and you want to fish in the pond that has the most amount of fish. That's what you want to do. So that is excellent. Okay, so we talked about that. That's beautiful. Now, marketing technique, because you said pick the market and the marketing technique. Give me just one marketing technique that would work for just about anyone, anywhere in the country.
People are gonna, because of what the market's doing, no one's gonna believe me, but expireds and withdrawns. So if you called expireds and withdrawns in a certain area, and you did it religiously, for several months, every day, and you spent an hour or two doing that, you'd make 150 grand to 200 grand in year one, I believe.
You're now speaking my language. You're now speaking my language, because everybody, like a lot of people are saying, well, there's no expireds. We're only getting not that many expired. Hey, damn it, hold on a second. Even if there's one expired that's coming up a day, that's 30 a month. That's 30 freaking damn opportunities. You're not going to convert all 30, no matter how good you are. Can you set an appointment with 1 in 10? That's 3 appointments. Can you list 1 or 2 of those every single month? Absolutely. Dan, what one of my clients did in our listings on demand training is she went and captured the names and phone numbers of every single expired in the last 24 months that has not relisted yet. She called every single one of those and took 25 listings. Missed opportunity for most people. So what you're saying is, hey, expireds, withdrawns, maybe some canceled. If you called out those people every single day, you will get business from it.
Yeah, I think, and then you can add to that. You don't just have to call expireds and withdrawns, but they're in every market, and you don't even have to limit yourself to ones that expired, withdrew this month. Like you could search back a year or two, and run the data, such that you pull the names that expired within the last 2 years, but have not relisted, right? Because maybe someone re-rented their place or whatever. Maybe they were terribly unrealistic 2 years ago, but now the market's caught up to the price they wanted. So
absolutely, and that's exactly what happened in our experience with my client that actually, called on I don't know how many expireds. That was the case. They wanted a specific price, they couldn't get it, and now they got a lot more.
Yeah.
and they had no idea it was worth a lot more, and that triggered the move, and it worked out in everybody's favor. All right, so that's beautiful right there, what we talked about to get people to the level of 15 million a year. Now let's say I'm already at 15 million and I want to go to 20, 25, 30, 40, 50. What is 1 or 2 things I need to focus on in order for me to scale my business?
Yeah, you need to repeat successful actions. So which seems really really obvious, but people struggle with it, right? I mean, if generating, to do 20 to 25, if you're at 20, 25 million a year, you're probably, depending on the types of leads, right? You're probably generating like 300 to 400 leads a year. So go do 3,000 to 4,000, right? Just turn the numbers up.
If somebody's doing 20 to $25 million a year, they're already doing something right. And I think what a lot of people are really lacking is they're really not keeping track of, the numbers in their business, the lead sources of where the leads are coming from and stuff like that. So I think it'd be a great idea for them to track that, because you said something, and look, I listen for certain things. You said repeat successful actions. I mean, that's common sense, but you and I both know that's not common practice. It's like, take a look at what got me here and then what got you here. There's a lot of things that you tried, but not everything worked that got you here. There's a lot of mistakes you made along the way. But what are some of the things that move the needle the furthest, the quickest, and repeat those? What are some of the common, things that people should be doing?
I think the first couple of things you need to do, if you haven't, one is hire a good admin. Many people, the first hire they make is like a buyer's agent, and that never ends well, because now you have to be the admin for them and you. So, you got to go out and spend 30, 40, 50 grand on a salary. And then I think and that'll allow you to start doing what you said, to actually track and figure out what's working, what's not. If you're selling, 15 to 28 million or so by yourself, you don't have enough time to track everything and, get new business and cater to your current business. So you probably need more help so that you can start doing the tracking. And the first thing would be to hire an admin. And then I think the next thing would be to hire an inside sales agent. So you have someone working the phone for you, getting you more appointments, getting you more at bats. And then now you have the infrastructure to go out and get some more agents to get to hire salespeople. But until you've got some people that can work the phones for you and some really good admin support.
So now we're leveraging money and people. That's what we're doing. Leveraging money and people. Get yourself a good admin, because if you don't, then you become the admin for the buyer's agent that you hire before the admin. Now you bring up the very famous, common topic in today's world, and that is the ISA, an inside sales agent. And there's people that say, hire an inside sales agent from your marketplace locally, and some will say hire them from abroad, like a virtual ISA. Do you have a preference, or in your experience, which one works better? Because obviously one's more expensive than the other.
We've pretty much always done it by hiring people in our marketplace, in our area, and they come into the office and they work outside the office too now, especially over the last year and a half. But we've always done it that way and had success. We've tried outsourcing before, and that has not worked as well. But I know some people have made that work well. So I think both can work, but it just depends on who you use to do the outsourcing and who's actually managing the people, right? I think it's a little bit harder to manage the virtual ISA. Especially if you haven't done it a lot.
I agree with you. I mean, locally you pay a little bit more, but you get a lot more. And we're not talking about small commission checks. We're talking about large commission checks. Obviously, if you're outsourcing, and I have people that I work with that do outsource, like to the Philippines, et cetera, and the likes of the Philippines and other countries, and they've made it actually work, but it took a long time to make it work, and it took a lot of like hiring and training and firing, and then hiring and training and firing all over again before they finally found the right people that fit the right culture for the team, et cetera. So leverage money and people is what's going to take you to the next level. How many lead sources do I need to have, like, in order for me to keep going to the next level?
I mean, the more the better, if you can track them, manage them, follow up with them, all of that. So, we've got hundreds, but we could probably do with a lot less. I think you're probably going to have 5 or 6 that are kind of become your bread and butter, your top 5 or 6. But
what are the top 5 or 6 in your opinion?
For us, we've had a lot of, with the number of years we've been doing it and the volume of clients, our repeat clients and referrals. And
so one is obviously your database.
Yep,
one is your database.
Facebook. Farming, Facebook, Zillow's actually been a good one for us. I know some realtors can't stand Zillow, but we've done really well with Zillow. It's just, you got to have the follow-up systems in place. We've done well with realtor.com as well. You gotta follow up. Open houses is believe it or not, are one of our better ones too. I know a lot of agents hate doing open houses, think they're a waste of time, but open houses tend to be really good ones for us too.
Fantastic. All right. So very, very common. Okay. So we said farming, we said your database, we said Facebook, which is online marketing, Zillow, realtor.com, and open house, very, very common ones. However, the one thing I'm going to say to the people out there that are going to, they're going to watch this video and they're going to be like, well, Dan said to do those 6 things. I am going to go there and do all 6 things. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, and Dan, I'm sure you would agree with this. Pick one first, get it right, and then move on to the second one. So rather than try to put all 6 systems in place in the next 6 months, let it take 12 to 18 months and get it right. Would you agree with that statement or no?
Yeah, I like the idea of, systemizing one thing and then moving on. If you're doing a couple of them at the same time and it's all new, it's going to be hard for you to really track and refine it.
Right. None of it is going to get 100% of your effort. It's going to get a little bit of your effort, and it's not going to give you 100% of the result that it could. And then, obviously, for you guys to be doing $800-900 million a year in volume, you got to be getting a good amount of repeat and referral business from your database. Can you share a tip or two on how one can get more repeat and referral business from their database?
I think you got to engage with them more. So, I think traditionally people have done client events, which are nice. They're kind of a pain to do, but they're important. I think with less events happening over the last year and a half, Facebook groups have become more and more important. If you can create a Facebook group of all your past clients and then use that as a place to engage with them. And
I love that idea. And I don't know anyone I do know just one person that created a Facebook group for their past clients and centers of influence, but I've been out of touch with them. How likely is it for people to say, yeah, I'd like to be part of the group?
I think if they're friends with you on Facebook and they bought a house with you and you invite them to,
Facebook group, they would
pass or whatever, friends, family, clients, whatever you want to call it, right? Like they're probably going to click yes, and then you gotta post interesting stuff in there.
But what you're saying, Dan, is that I should definitely be friends with my past clients and centers of influence on Facebook.
For most people, probably, yes.
I would agree with that, because part of our system is you should be, and then what we do is we put them in a specific friend list on Facebook. So that way, we take a look at the timeline and it's only our past clients and centers of influence. So we get to, proactively engage with them by liking, commenting, and, sharing their stuff and staying on top of mind. So that's a very, very good, clever idea. Dan, is there a question that you feel like I should have asked you today that I did not ask you that I should ask you?
No, you covered a lot of good stuff, man. Very, very impressed. This was fun.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that, Dan. And then I know there's a lot of people out there that, maybe new to your world and maybe not familiar with, the HyperFast Agent podcast. Definitely, I want the people that are subscribed to my podcast, you should be subscribed to more than one podcast. And Daniel does a great job at giving you guys a lot of value on that podcast. So I definitely want you guys to go there and subscribe to his podcast as well, too. And then you mentioned your book earlier. If somebody wanted your book, how can they get access to it? Is it on Amazon? Is there a specific website? How did they get the book?
It's on Amazon. You can get it there. You can get it on Audible, Kindle. You can go to hyperfastagent.com and get it directly from us, too.
Perfect. We will make sure that we will link that in the show notes at chadibazzi.tv or tlashow.com, whichever one we go to. We will make sure we will link it there. And Daniel, before we started talking here, you have an event coming up real soon. And if you're listening this in 2021, it's coming up in a few months then. Can you tell us about the event and what we can learn at the event and who should attend the event and maybe who shouldn't attend the event?
Yeah, so it's October 18th and 19th in Boca Raton, Florida. 2-day event. This is the fourth year in a row we've done it. So in the past we've had Grant Cardone, Ryan Serhant, Billy Jean. We've had some really good marketers and business people. So we're announcing the full lineup soon. Probably by the time this airs, that'll be out. I think it's for anybody that wants to be motivated, inspired, learn how to take their real estate business to the next level. Whether you're starting out or, at the point where you want to really build and scale a team, which is really what we specialize in. But any real estate level, I think.
Got it. If I wanted information about the event, just go to hyperfastagent.com and I can find the information there.
Either there or I believe you can go directly to HFA Summit.
HFA Summit, HFA, which stands for HyperFast Agent, hfasummit.com. And we will make sure that we will link it in the show notes as well, too. Dan, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. A lot of golden nuggets you shared with us. And if you liked what Dan said today, which I loved a lot of what he said, then make sure that you subscribe to the podcast, get a copy of the book, and if you can make it to the event, then you should definitely go there and be at the event. Thank you very much, Dan. I appreciate it.
Thank you.